What is going on, everybody? That's Fred here. Welcome to a weird video if you're a regular viewer, and if not, thanks for jumping aboard. I hope you decide to stay, and if you don't, thank you for checking out today's video at the very least. So, Andor Season 2 has come to an end, and obviously it's the talk of the town right now, slowly dying a bit in terms of popularity, because, again, it ended about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But regardless, the show is still very popular to speak about. And in that popularity, there's been one particular argument that I personally disagree with on a fundamental level, which is the show doesn't feel like Star Wars, but it's still really good. So that statement has been thrown around a lot on YouTube in my own experience. I'm not going to call it names, and this is also not me, tearing anybody down, more so just giving my 2 cents on a discussion point, right? So yes, it is true that this show is different from almost all other Star Wars media we've been given in 48 years, right? I will give you that 100%, at least outside of books, because I haven't read any of the books. But still, if you don't read the books, then you stick to the games and TV shows and movies, this can feel very different compared to what we're used to being given by Lucasfilm and Disney. I get the point of what the argument is saying, which is this is a very adult show. It shows adult themes, and it's a bit less accessible compared to most pieces of Star Wars media. And I 100% understand where that's coming from. I really do. But I do disagree wholeheartedly. If you take a look at what Star Wars is, right? What makes a good Star Wars movie? From episodes 1 through 6, and even 7, 8, and 9, to an extent, they all, even if they don't feel like Star Wars, they have the skin of Star Wars. And why is that? It's not because of the look or the aesthetic or anything else like that. In my opinion, it is simply because of good versus evil. Star Wars is very unique, and I do believe that it's worth mentioning or having a video dedicated to should Star Wars be a genre at this point, but that's a different discussion for a different time. Star Wars itself, the whole point of it is good versus bad, right? You have the good guy, you have the bad guy, whether it's the bounty hunters, Mandalorians, whether it's the Empire or the First Order, the Rebellion, and the Resistance. You have the New Republic and the Old Republic versus the CIS and the Separatists, and the Sith versus the Jedi, the clones versus the battle droids. You name it, there is plenty of good versus bad and, good and evil in Star Wars. And not to say that Star Wars is clear cut and there's no gray. There certainly is. And that's something that Star Wars is very talented at doing, in my opinion. But with Andor, it's very, you have to think about where that line is drawn. I don't think it's as easy as saying this character's good, this character's bad. Partagas, I think is how you pronounce it, or the head of the ISB is a bad guy, right? Not really. Like, he's not a good guy by any means, and he does evil things, I would argue. But him as an individual, somebody had to do the job, and he's just doing his job, there is an argument to be made that he's not a bad person. He's just able to be the bad guy when he needs to be. That's an argument. Whether I agree with it isn't the point. So I lay all this out before you because Syril is a very, very interesting character, and I think he embodies why Andor is some of the most Star Wars media we have ever gotten. And when I say that, I'm of course excluding the movies, because Star Wars itself is Star Wars. But anyways, Star Wars in general, in my eyes, is not just good versus evil. It's light versus dark, right? I think that's a very much more fluent way of saying, a much more elegant way of saying good versus evil. So light versus dark. Syril himself is the dark side of Star Wars. I want to delve into that because I understand that is a very kind of ridiculous statement, but hear me out on this, okay? When you think about the dark side of Star Wars, you're probably thinking of Darth Vader and the Sith Empire and the Imperial faction of the Empire, right? And that is 100% absolutely understandable. But the dark side itself is more than just the Empire, the First Order, the Force. It is the code they live by. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains will be broken. The Force shall set me free. The idea of the dark side, the idea of the quote-unquote evil, the bad, is this philosophy of passion, strength, power, victory. That is at the core of what the bad guys in Star Wars are. Syril has that down to a T. It just so happens that he is a nice guy, right? So he is the epitome of, I'm just a guy at work. I just work here. I'm just doing what I'm told, etc., right? Especially in the first season where he's going after Andor and trying to figure everything out there. It's very easy to see him as wrong place, wrong time. And to an extent, I do think that there is certainly an argument to be made there about him. However, Syril, specifically in Season 2, after everything happens with Dedra, I believe, is when his fall to the dark side begins. Again, not in terms of the Force. Maybe, yes, the Force, but not in the classical sense of he was seduced by the dark side, the Force, the evil Force, quote-unquote, brought him there. That's not what I mean. I mean, the embodiment of the dark side, this idea of emotions, brought him to his end, okay? Through passion. Let's start with passion. He has a passion for his job, and that is perfectly fine. You should have a passion for your job. I think the Jedi also have a passion for their job. But there's a difference between having a passion for your job and having a passion for praise, having a passion for doing the right thing and being told you're doing the right thing. You should want to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, like finding the murderer of 2 of your cohorts, 2 of your coworkers, not doing what you're told because your girlfriend is telling you to do it. Do you kind of see the difference there? There's a big difference, but it's very subtle. You should do the right thing, not because it feels right to do, but because it's the right thing to do. The means may be the same, but the means may be the same, but the reason for the means are going to be different. And the reason is what leads you down certain roads. Through passion, I gain strength. Let's look at the fight between him and Andor, right? You have this, for lack of a better word, meek, mild-mannered, quiet guy versus perhaps the most off-the-cuff, off-the-rails, loose gun the Rebellion has ever seen, at least at the time of Andor showing. And yet, the meek, mild-mannered guy is able to overpower him. Through strength, I gain power. He was strengthened by his passion for Dedra, strengthened by his passion for being told he's doing the right thing, by his the illusion of the Empire, and now disillusionment and being confused and almost scared in a way, I think it's fair to say, and just stunned and shocked by the role he has played. He gains power through that strength of emotion, and he has victory over Andor. That strength, passion, power led him to victory. All of those are elements of the dark side, and then he's killed. Now let's stop for a second and just in a different world think. What if he tackles Andor and tells Andor, hey, you are the reason why my life is like this, and he pushes blame onto him. He doesn't take responsibility. Maybe there's a chance that Andor and him have a dialogue, and that leads Syril down a different path, right? I think you kind of are picking up what I'm putting down here. He may not have been killed by the Gorman guy in charge of the Resistance. I feel bad I'm forgetting his name, but he may not have been killed because, quite simply, he could have been turned to the Rebellion. But because he allowed his emotions to cloud his judgment, he was clouded by the dark side, maybe not the Force, but the meaning of the dark side itself without the Force, the emotional part, the drive, the wrongdoing and the wrong meaning and the wrong reasons to do what he does. That all led him down a path that he should not have gone down to begin with. Had he changed course at any point, had he not had passion for Dedra and being praised for doing the right thing, had he not been strengthened by her agreement that he's doing the right thing, and more or less her in general, and had he not had wanted the power of his emotions to enable him to have victory over Andor, there would have been a different outcome for him. I really do believe that. Now, that's not to say that he deserved death, but he certainly led himself down that road. He allowed his rage, anger, suffering of his life to lead him to his end. That is the crux. That is the meaning of turning to the dark side. And yet you have Andor here who he just wants peace. Maybe he wants it in a different way than most people, but he does want peace, much like Syril. I will give you that. Syril thinks that he's getting peace for the galaxy. But Andor isn't lied to by the Empire. He sees the lies of the Empire, and he sees through them. He wants knowledge of the Death Star, knowledge of Luthen, right? He wants serenity, harmony through the Force. Maybe not the Force exactly for him, but he still wants harmony for everybody else because this is what his life is now, like it or not. Bix left him. She is gone as far as he knows. He doesn't know what happened to her, but it doesn't matter because this is his life. And all he knows is you have to play their game in order to win their game. And he's playing it, and he's playing it their way, but for different reasons. And it goes back to what I said in the beginning. The meaning is different from the means, which are the same. Him and Syril have the same goal, which is peace. They are fighting for the same cause, which is peace, and they want the same thing of harmony, which is peace. They both want peace, but in very different ways. And the reason for that, the drive for that, is what makes them different. And that's why I think Andor, you could argue, is the embodiment of the light side in the show. He allows himself clarity of mind, free of emotions. He gave up Bix because he knew it was better for both of them. He was able to separate himself from Luthen to an extent, at the very least, where he could say, I'm here with the rebellion. I'm not going to be tied down and chained. I'm not going to be a slave to my emotions. I am able to do the right thing because I want to do the right thing, not because I want to do right by somebody else. Very different things. You could even say, I think you could take one step further, that he was a quote-unquote dark side when he was with Luthen, because he was doing basically the same thing that Syril was doing, but replaced Dedra with Luthen. Difference is, Andor was able to break free of Luthen and go to the rebellion and let go of Bix. Syril couldn't do that until the end, where he was willingly giving up his ability to say this is wrong. He had all the pieces, mind you. Syril had every piece of information that he had up until the very end, where he put everything together, but he only put everything together because he was no longer believing the lie that Dedra was selling him for all those years. He was able to overlook the reality of the situation for Dedra. He was able to not worry about the right and wrong thing because of Dedra. To an extent, his love, his emotions led to his demise. I mean, if that's not Star Wars, if that's not the meaning of Star Wars, I don't know what is. I think when people say that either Syril's death doesn't feel like Star Wars, and people say that Andor itself doesn't feel like Star Wars, my response and your response would be, but what is Star Wars? And I understand that's going to be different for everybody, right? It's like saying, what is freedom? That's a very loaded question. And that's a question that can lead down 100,000 different paths. But at the end of the day, whatever Star Wars is to you, it's only that way because of what it represents. And what it represents is the fight. The fight of good over evil. The fight for the right thing, for the right reason, for the right cause, versus the wrong reason, the wrong cause. It's pretty clear, in my opinion, that the massacre of the Gormans was not the right cause to die for. Yet, Syril happily gave his life to fight for a selfish reason, which was petty revenge, using his strength and anger to overpower Andor, and then die at the end of the fight, even though he had the upper hand, all because he let his emotions get the better of him. But hey, that's my opinion. I think Syril is the exact reason for why this show is Star Wars. And whenever somebody says the show isn't Star Wars, the show is too adult for Star Wars or whatever, it doesn't belong in the Star Wars universe, I can't agree with that. At the end of the day, it is a Star Wars show, and it has the exact DNA that Star Wars has, which is the character studies, the character motivations, and the reason for the characters doing what they do. Just so happens that Andor had the right reasons, just so happened for the right cause. Syril thought he was in the right cause, but for the wrong reasons. And I do think, honestly, even if Syril didn't have Dedra, I think he would still, and say that him and Dedra were on the rebellion side, I still think he would have been doing things for the wrong reason, because that's not the way of the Jedi. That's not the way of the light side of the Force. That's not the way of the right side of the fight. That you should do the right fight for the right reason, even though it's the same means. But I understand also this is getting a bit into some pretty more real-world discussion, so I'm going to leave it here. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this character study. I think, personally, Syril is the exact reason for why this show is such good Star Wars media. But hey, I could be totally off. I just see it as light and dark, and that's what Star Wars is, and that's what this show is. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like button. Show support, because we will make more videos just like this one. I do have memberships active. If you're interested, go to the channel or link in the description as well in order to check those out and see what you get with those. I will be more active in this channel. I promise. And other than that, I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, the Simon Sorrow loves you, even to know you, and Jesus loves you. Have a blessed day, you guys. Take care, and goodbye. Thank you so much to the channel members. Currently in the old days tier, we have Sinful Gaming. In the modern times, we have Lord Taco. And in the future tier, we have Apocalypse Super. Thank you so much for the support, you guys. It really does mean the most to me, and it means the world, and I appreciate you all.